AITA for packing my girlfriend's bags after she called me a consolation prize? It all started a few weeks ago when my girlfriend was added to a group chat called the class reunion. At first, I did not give it much importance. I thought it would be the typical stuff. People reminiscing about college, sharing old photos, promising to get together someday, and ultimately never finalizing anything. But before getting to that, I need to explain the context properly. Otherwise, what happened next would not make sense. I transferred into the college during the last year of my degree. I moved to a new city for personal reasons, so I arrived when practically everyone already had their friend groups formed. Even so, socializing has never been hard for me. In a few weeks, I was already talking to almost everyone, making jokes, and participating in class. I was not the best student, but I knew how to navigate well among people. She was completely different. She was always in the same spot in the classroom, as if that space belonged to her, a discreet corner near the wall. She had an old laptop, big glasses, simple clothes, and a closed posture, as if she were trying to take up the least amount of space possible. She did not talk to anyone, and worst of all, no one talked to her. At first, I thought she was simply shy, but over time I understood it was something else. There was a clear dynamic. They ignored her. When they had the chance, they made comments at her expense. Nothing over the top, nothing direct, but constant. And there was someone who stood out in that. Mason was the typical guy who needs to make comments to feel superior. He was not physically aggressive, but he had that way of attacking by disguising everything as a joke. One time in the middle of class, when she took a snack out of her backpack to eat, he said out loud, "Eating again?" Some people laughed. She did not answer. She just looked down. Those kinds of things happen more often than they should. It was not an open attack, but it was enough for everyone to understand her place in the group. And the worst part is that nobody said anything. It became normal. I did not notice it all from the first day, but little by little it started to bother me until something happened that changed everything. One day, I arrived late to class, and the only free seat was next to her. I sat down without thinking about it too much. Class had not started yet, and Mason was talking to someone else nearby. Then he dropped the comment. "Hey bro," he said to me. "Doesn't it gross you out to sit there? The smell reaches all the way over here." Some laughed. Then he looked right at her. "Tell me, did you shower this week, or are you leaving it for later?" There was more laughter. Not from everyone, but enough. She stayed completely motionless. She did not look up. She did not say anything. I did not react immediately either, but I did not stay quiet. "You must be Mason, right?" I told him. "I had already heard about you." There was a brief silence. "Oh yeah," he replied with a smile. "And what do they say? That you are quite an idiot, and that you need attention because you have nothing else." The laughter stopped. Mason kept smiling, but his expression changed slightly. "Ah, I get it now," he said. "You like her. That is why you are defending her." I shook my head. "No, we are simply not in elementary school. You are too old for that kind of stuff." His smile faded a bit. "Relax, it was a joke. It is not funny." He got up and approached my seat. I stood up too. It was not planned, it just happened. We stood face to face for a few seconds. There was tension, but no physical altercation. Finally, he took a step back. "Chill," he said. "It is not worth it." And he sat down. Class started shortly after, as if nothing had happened, but something did happen. From that day on, Mason stopped making comments toward her. It was not immediate, but it was obvious, as if he had decided it was no longer in his best interest. And although it seems like a small thing, it made a big difference. When class ended, everyone started to leave. She stayed seated for a few more seconds. I was packing my things when I heard her voice in almost a whisper. "Thank you." I looked at her. She still was not making much eye contact, but she was clearly nervous. "You do not have to thank me," I told her. What he said was not right. She nodded. She did not say anything else. But that was the beginning. After that day, something changed between us. It was not immediate or exaggerated, but it was steady. At first, our conversations were simple, comments about the class, questions about an assignment, very basic things. She remained reserved, spoke little, and almost always in a low voice, as if she did not want to intrude on anyone's space. But over time, that started to change. I discovered that she was very good at what she did. Actually, better than most. She understood things quickly, solved problems easily, and had a very logical way of thinking. However, she always spoke with doubt, as if she did not trust her own answers. I think it is like this, but I am not sure, she would say even when she was right. Little by little, we began to sit together out of habit, then study together. Then, without realizing it, we started hanging out outside of college. Nothing special at first, grabbing coffee at the local coffee shop, taking walks in the park, talking about anything. And that was where I truly got to know her. She liked video games, science fiction, and programming. We had more things in common than I expected. I could talk to her for hours without it feeling tedious. Over time, she became part of my routine. What caught my attention the most was her insecurity. It was not just shyness, it was something deeper. She doubted herself, even when she had reasons to be confident. When I told her I liked her, she did not believe me. She literally thought I was joking. "Do not say that," she told me. "It is not funny." I had to repeat it several times. And even then, her reaction was not excitement, but confusion, as if she could not understand why someone like me would be interested in someone like her. Even so, we started dating. Our relationship was peaceful from the start. Nothing impulsive, nothing exaggerated. Simple dates, long conversations, a lot of comfort. There was no drama, no games. We finished college and decided to stay together. We both studied computer science, so we entered the workforce at almost the same time. I had a certain advantage because of the connections I had made. I found a job relatively quickly at a company that developed websites and business systems. After a few months, an opportunity to recommend someone came up. I thought of her, not just because she was my girlfriend, but because I knew she was capable. I recommended her, and after a few interviews, she managed to get in. That is where another major change began. At work, she started to stand out. She gave opinions, participated in meetings, and defended her ideas. She was no longer the person who avoided drawing attention. She also started to change physically. I had started going to the local gym on my own. I never told her she should do it. Never. I said nothing, but after a while, she decided to join me. It was hard for her at first. It was obvious she was not used to it, but she was consistent. Weeks turned into months. The change was evident, not just in her body, but in her attitude. She looked more confident, more present, more self-aware. She walked differently, spoke differently, and people began to treat her differently. Coworkers who used to ignore her were now talking to her. She received compliments, invitations, and attention in general. I saw it as a positive thing. I felt she was growing. Our relationship also seemed stable. We had been together for more than 2 years. We had routines, plans, a certain peace of mind that is rarely broken without warning. Until that group chat appeared. One night, while we were having dinner in our apartment, she got a notification. She looked at her phone, read for a few seconds, and smiled. "I got added to a college group," she told me. I asked her to show it to me. The class reunion. At first, it was exactly what I expected. Greetings, old photos, memories, inside jokes. But as the days passed, something changed. Nicole started paying more attention to her phone. She replied quickly, checked it constantly. And there was something in her expression I had not seen before. It was not insecurity, it was not discomfort, it was something else. Anticipation. One night I asked her, "Who was in the group?" She mentioned several names, some I remembered, others I did not, until she said one. Mason. And without knowing exactly why, I felt that something did not quite fit, but I did not say anything. I thought I was overreacting. I had no idea what was coming next. A few days later, they added me to the group too. It was not something I asked for. Someone simply commented that it would be a good idea to include partners, and she shared my number. At first, I just observed. The group had around 40 people, although not everyone participated. It was typical, some very active, others completely silent. That is when I started recognizing names. And yes, he was there. Mason did not type much, but when he did, he managed to draw attention. He still had that confident way of expressing himself, as if he knew exactly how to position himself in front of others. He did not make offensive comments like before, but his presence was noticeable. As days went by, the group stopped being just about memories. They started organizing a get-together. The idea quickly gained traction. A guy named Derek offered his house. From what they said, it was quite big, with enough space for something like that in his suburban neighborhood. They started talking about dates, times, and who would bring what. Out of the 40, around 20 ended up confirming. Nicole was excited, and that was the first thing that struck me as odd. It was not a mild excitement, it was obvious. She checked the group constantly and gave her opinion on the organization. She even started thinking about what she was going to wear several days in advance. One night, while we were talking about it in our living room, I could not help but ask her, "I thought you did not like them very much. You know, because of how they treated you." She stayed silent for a few seconds. "I healed those wounds," she finally answered. "I'm a different person now." I looked at her, trying to understand if she really believed it or if it was just something she wanted to believe. "Besides," she continued, "I want them to see me now." "What do you mean?" "I want them to see that I am doing well, that I have a good job, that I changed." She paused briefly. "And also for them to see us together." She said that last part looking directly at me. It did not sound bad, but it did not sound completely natural either. Even so, I decided not to overthink it. We agreed to go. The day of the reunion arrived faster than I expected. And although I did not know it at the time, that night was going to change everything. Derek's house was just as they had described it. Large, well lit, with enough room for people to move around comfortably in the suburbs. There was music, drinks, and conversations in different corners. For a reunion of former classmates, everything was surprisingly well organized. When we arrived after the drive over, there were already several people there. Some recognized her right away, and that is where I noticed something I did not expect. The reaction toward Nicole was not the same as before. They greeted her enthusiastically, gave her compliments, and asked her what she had been up to. She answered confidently, smiled, maintained eye contact, and moved naturally, as if she had always been that way. She was another person. I stayed on the sidelines a bit at first, not because I felt uncomfortable, but because I wanted to observe and see how everything unfolded. And then he appeared, Mason. He walked right up to us, without hesitation, without faltering. First, he looked at Nicole. "Hi," he said. His tone was completely different from what I remembered. She looked at him. For a moment, she did not answer. "I wanted to talk to you," he continued. I did not intervene. If it was not necessary, I was not going to do it. Mason took a deep breath before continuing. "I know I was not a good person to you in college. In fact, I was an idiot." It did not sound completely fake, or at least not enough to dismiss it right away. "I was having problems at home," he added. "It is not an excuse, but I took it out on whoever I could." He paused. "And you did not deserve that." The atmosphere changed. It was not uncomfortable, but it was tense. Nicole looked at him in silence, and then something happened that I did not expect. Her eyes filled with tears. It was not exaggerated, but it was obvious. "Thank you," she finally said. Her voice was weak. "Truly." And she started to cry. Mason did not get too close. He just nodded. "I am sorry," he repeated. Then he looked at me. "And I was a jerk to you too that day." I did not reply right away. I just nodded slightly. I had no interest in causing a scene, but I also did not feel it was a moment to wrap everything up so easily. The conversation ended there, but something still did not sit right with me. I would not know how to explain exactly what. Maybe it was how quickly she accepted it, maybe the intensity of her reaction, or maybe the way he looked at her. The party went on. Conversations, laughter, music, everything within normal bounds. But I was no longer completely at ease. There was something that just did not click. The following days we returned to our routine. Work, home in our apartment, gym, everything as usual, or at least it seemed so. We had been living together for a few months, so we spent practically all our time outside of work together. Until that day arrived. In the morning, Nicole told me she was not feeling well. It did not seem like anything serious, more like fatigue, a headache. "I think I will stay home today," she told me. I did not question it. I told her to rest. Before leaving for the office in my car, I talked to my boss. I explained the situation just in case I had to leave early if she got worse. "No problem," he told me. "But in the afternoon we are going to need someone." I mentioned that to Nicole. "I do not think I will be better by the afternoon," she replied. "I prefer to stay in all day." That left me in an awkward position, but I decided to stay at work. She assured me she could handle it. The morning passed normally, but mid-afternoon my boss came over. "Hey," he told me, "we are not going to need anyone after all." "Are you sure?" "Yes. Someone new arrived and can cover." He paused. "If you want, you can leave early." I did not think about it too much. I thanked him and left. The drive home was fast. I even thought about buying something for her to eat, but I decided to go straight there. I was not expecting anything out of the ordinary. I opened the door. Silence. Too much silence. Nicole, I called out. There was no answer. I walked toward the bedroom. The door was ajar. I pushed it open, and right there everything stopped. I found her and Mason together in our bedroom. For a second, my mind did not process what I was seeing, as if it were an image without context, but then everything suddenly clicked into place. The group, the reunion, the looks, everything. What? Was the only thing I could say. She got up immediately. He did not. Mason just stayed there looking at me. And the worst part was not that. It was his expression. He did not seem nervous. He did not seem sorry. He seemed calm, confident. It is not what it looks like, she said, the most useless phrase in those kinds of situations. I did not answer. My voice, when it came out, was colder than I expected. Be quiet. I did not want to hear anything in that moment. I looked at Mason. Seriously? He shrugged slightly. Things happen. That was enough. Get out. I did not raise my voice, but I said it clearly. He got up calmly. He got dressed without rushing. Before leaving, he looked at me and smiled slightly. Then he left, the door closed, and it was just the two of us. The silence was heavy. She tried to say something, but could not find the words. Since when? I asked. She did not answer right away. It is not what you think. Since when? I asked again, more directly this time. She looked at me and said it. Always. I did not understand. What? She took a deep breath. I was always in love with him. I felt something break. You, she continued. You were what I had. I stayed silent. It was not immediate rage. It was something slower, deeper, as if everything I thought I understood stopped making sense. And what came next finished destroying whatever was left. You were what I had, she repeated, as if she needed to make it completely clear what was possible at that moment. I felt a brief, humorless laugh slip out. Are you really saying that right now? She did not look away. She was no longer the insecure person I had met. That was obvious, but what I had in front of me was not someone I recognized either. I am not saying it to hurt you, she replied. I am just being honest. Honest, I repeated. After that, there was a short silence. I did not want it to happen like this, she added. But I cannot keep pretending either. Pretending what? That you are what I really want. That actually hurt. Not like a punch, but like something slower, clearer. I stared at her. After everything that happened, you ended up wanting him. She did not hesitate. Yes. The guy who humiliated you. That was before. I shook my head. Sure. Before, when he was not interested in you. That made her uncomfortable for the first time. It is not that simple. Explain it to me. Then she took a moment before answering, as if organizing her thoughts. He always had something that you did not. Confidence, presence, that way of walking into a room and knowing everyone notices him. I let out a slow breath. He also had a habit of treating you like trash. People change. What a coincidence, I replied. Right when you changed. She stayed quiet. She did not deny it. I was always attracted to that, she finally admitted. Even though I did not want to accept it, I felt something strange in my chest. It was not just anger, it was disappointment. Do you know what the most absurd part of all this is? I said, you spent years hating how you were treated, and in the end, you wound up wanting exactly that kind of person. She did not reply immediately, but when she did, she completely closed the book on everything. Because I always hoped he would change for me. I looked at her in silence. What? I thought that if one day he saw me differently, if he stopped seeing me like before, then everything would be different. I could not believe what I was hearing. Are you being serious? She nodded. For a long time, I imagined things. What kind of things? She looked down for the first time. Stories. I hoped for an us. The silence grew heavier. I imagined that he would realize it, that he would like me, that he would regret it, that he would come looking for me. She paused. That we would end up together. I did not know what to say. For how long did you think that? Since college. That hurt more than I expected. So, all of this? I asked. Us. It was not a lie, she replied quickly. I did love you, but you were not what I truly wanted. I closed my eyes for a second. A replacement. I would not say it like that, but it is. Silence. She did not deny it. You were a good option, she finally said. That was worse. There was no trace of guilt in her voice. Only logic. And now, she continued, I no longer have to settle. I stared right at her. Settle. I am different now. I feel good about myself. I know my worth. And that makes you think you can swap people out like it is nothing. It makes me think I can be with whoever I really want to be with. Even if that someone humiliated you for years. He does not do that anymore. I let out a short laugh. Of course, now you are finally enough. She did not answer, but her silence said it all. You are unbelievable, I muttered. You do not understand, she said. No, you are right, I replied. I do not understand how someone can build a relationship with you for more than 2 years, support you, help you grow, and in the end you say it was just an option. She sighed. You were important. Do not say that. You were. No, I interrupted her. I was useful. That actually bothered her. That is not fair. No. I looked straight at her. You just said you were waiting for someone else this whole time. She did not respond. She turned around and walked to the closet. She started taking out clothes. What are you doing? I am leaving. Just like that. There is no point in staying. I watched her in silence for a few seconds. Of course, I said. Now that your true option has appeared. She did not answer. She just kept packing. Are you going with him? I asked. Yes, without a doubt. She zipped the suitcase closed. She grabbed it. Before leaving, she stopped for a second. Thank you for everything. I did not reply. There was nothing to say. The door closed, and this time she really was gone. The days that followed were strange. There was no emotional explosion like one might imagine. I did not break things. I did not look for her. I did not try to understand more than what I had already heard. It was silence, a heavy silence, but clear. As if once I understood what had really happened, everything else stopped mattering. My routine changed automatically. Work, home in the apartment, gym, without her, without conversations, without that constant presence I was already used to. And the weirdest part of all was that it did not hurt as much as I expected. It was not sadness, it was something else, clarity. A few days passed, not many. And then she came back. She knocked on the door, I opened it. There she was, without a suitcase, without that confidence she had left with. Can we talk? She asked. I let her in. She sat on the couch. I stood for a few seconds before sitting across from her. She did not say anything at first. What happened? I finally asked. She stayed quiet for a few seconds. I made a mistake. I did not react. About what? She hesitated. He just wanted to sleep with me. I looked at her. What a surprise. It is not funny. I did not answer. It is not. But it is not unexpected either. That bothered her. I thought he had changed. Of course you thought that. You do not have to be like this. Like what, Cole? I repeated the word quietly. Cole. I looked right at her. You left with him, and now you come back because it did not work out the way you wanted. It is not that simple. It is exactly that. Silence. I want to fix things, she said. Then I did react. No, I did not hesitate. What? No, you cannot come here after all of that and expect us to go back to the same thing. I am not saying that. Then what are you saying? That I made a mistake. I shook my head. No, you made a choice. She stayed quiet. And now you are living the consequences. She stood up. You ruined me. That actually surprised me. Excuse me. At work. That is when I understood where she was going. Did you talk to your boss? Yes. She paused. And to other people. You reached out to connections so I would not get hired anywhere else in our network. I looked at her without changing my expression. Yes. She went completely silent. Why would you do that? Because I can. That threw her off. That is low. Lower than what you did. It has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with it. Her eyes filled with tears. You ruined my life. I shook my head slightly. No. I looked at her calmly. You did. I just made a mistake. No. I repeated. You made a choice. Silence. I watched her for a few more seconds, and then I said it. You are pathetic. That broke her. What? You went from being someone insecure to someone who still needs validation. Only now it comes from another kind of person. She did not reply. You sold yourself out for a fantasy. She tried to say something, but I interrupted her. And when that fantasy shattered, you came back. Silence. You are exactly what you always were. She looked at me. And what is that? Someone who needs approval. Her voice cracked. No. Yes. I leaned forward a bit. And the worst part is that now you no longer have the excuse of not realizing it. She did not say anything. She just cried, but it no longer affected me. Leave. She did not argue. She did not insist. She simply grabbed her things and left. This time the door closed definitively, and I felt nothing, neither anger nor sadness, just that same feeling that had been there from the start. Clarity, because in the end, some people do not change, they just stop hiding what they always were. Comment: this story touched me deeply. I want you to remember that your value is never up for negotiation. Setting healthy boundaries protects your peace and shows self-respect. True healing comes when we stop looking for validation in the wrong places. Kindness should never mean accepting disrespect from others. Taking full responsibility for our choices helps us grow stronger. Choosing genuine peace is always better than chasing excitement that hurts. You deserve to be with someone who completely appreciates you right from the start. Never be afraid to walk away when something no longer serves your well-being. I believe in your strength to build relationships that truly honor who you are. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.